Right off the bat, just really short. I don't want to make you jealous, but Tiger.mama38 sent me a contact request on Skype.
Oh.
Yeah, and she sent me a pretty saucy message.
Yeah?
Yeah, it says, "Hey, are you online?" Yeah, I'm thinking about following up on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're lucky, you could get a link to her webcam.
Right.
Which for the sheer price of, I don't know, a few bucks a minute, you can enjoy.
Yeah. Tiger Mama.
Yeah. But I'm going to tell you why you should not contact Tiger Mama. And maybe you should never have sex again. Because I saw a film this weekend that taught me young people should never fuck, ever.
Okay.
And this movie's called It Follows. What do you know about it? Have you seen much about this film yet?
No, I don't know anything about it. So the way I know horror movies now is by the trailers. So yeah. Here are the 4 horror movies that I know are playing right now or soon. There's Girl Commits Suicide on a School Yard. There's Little Girl Gets yanked up by the little girl gets yanked out by the feet. And there's People on the Roof, and then there's Clown Jumps at You. So which movie is this?
This is People on the Roof one.
Okay, so what's People on the Roof about?
All right, so I'm gonna cover this plot with you here. And so basically, this movie's called It Follows. It's directed by a dude I've never heard of. Don't even remember his name. I went and saw it on a whim. I was in a mall in Maryland, and this theater in this mall is the most ridiculous place I've ever been. It's called the Egyptian something Carmike Theater, you know, and they have giant Egyptian columns, and it's all an Egyptian themed theater.
Right.
And so I go in to check this movie out. Lots of previews, some which looked interesting, some which of course didn't. But I'll just jump right into the movie. So the movie opens up on a suburban street. Think kind of a slightly more ritzy Haddonfield type, very middle America, classic neighborhood.
So like starting at the low 300s.
Yes. Okay. Definitely starting. All brick house, very nice neighborhood. You see a girl, probably a teenager, 16, 17 by the looks of her, kind of shoot out of the house. She's wearing high heels and kind of a teddy.
Okay.
With like some shorts and kind of a top. And she walks out and she's moving kind of slowly. The camera doesn't move. The camera just pans with her. And it's early in the morning, right at daybreak, and she goes out into the street. There's a lady unloading something from her car. Says, "Hey, can I help you out?" And she's like, No, you can't. So the lady just goes, "Okay," and goes in her house. And the girl kind of does a full circle, goes back into her house. Her dad comes out at that point and says, "Hey, everything okay?" She says, "Yeah, it's fine." She gets out, she goes, gets in her car, and just drives off. Meanwhile, and this will be a central theme in the movie, a very loud and creepy 80s sounding synth music is playing. You would really dig the soundtrack to this movie.
Okay. So is it like dark, like Depeche Mode, or like more real synth?
Nope, pretty dark.
Okay.
But also kind of just unsettling.
Right.
And you have no idea what's going on. Obviously something's chasing this girl, but you don't know what it is.
Okay.
And she gets in the car, takes off. She's riding around in her car. The phone's ringing. She's not answering it. She finally goes to the beach. She parks her car on the beach with the headlights. It's nighttime by now. The headlights are on her. And she calls her dad and it's like, "Hey, I'm sorry I suck. And I'm sorry I fucked up so much." And then it cuts to black. Next thing it shows her, she's on the beach and she's in, like, her kneecaps are bent backward. She's in pieces.
Oh.
Dead.
Oh, okay.
Then it cuts to what will be our main character. We'll call her Blondie.
Okay.
And Blondie lives...
I shouldn't ask who plays her then, I guess.
I wouldn't know her name.
Nobody. Yeah, nobody.
Yeah, I mean she's I think she's pretty young, you know, probably 20, 21 years old. She's supposed to be playing kind of a college freshman, and she lives in a house that's not as nice. You know, think starting at the 120s.
Okay.
And you know the house isn't nice because they have a pool, but it's an above ground pool.
Oh, yeah, that's a sure sign.
Yeah, and it's not even that nice of a pool. And so she's just floating around in the pool. Meanwhile, the synth music starts playing again. So you're already on edge. Like, what the fuck's going on? Is she going to get her legs ripped in backwards too? And you see something move behind the bushes, and it's just creepy, kind of 12, 13-year-old neighbor kids creeping on her. So she gets out of the pool. She goes in the house, and this is where you meet everybody else. She has a sister who's probably about 16. You know, cute young girl, brown hair. They look nothing alike.
Okay.
She has the genuine nice guy friend. His name is Paul that hangs out with them. I think they're all neighborhood kids. They all grew up together. And then there's kind of a nerdy girl who wears big glasses, and she is always reading on a Kindle, and she's reading The Idiot by Dostoevsky.
Oh, okay. So you know she's smart.
She's smart.
Yeah,
and
she's gonna make it at least a while.
Well, and we'll get to this later on, but it's kind of okay. Well, maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. You don't know yet. I'm not going to tell you yet. Okay. You got to wait at least 20 minutes for me to get there.
Okay.
But the smart girl, she also rips a huge fart.
Okay.
So she's kind of a tomboy, you know. Just she's not meant to be a sex figure.
Right. Because you have to have her cut farts for us to not mistake her as a sexual object.
Yeah, well, obviously.
Right.
Because girls don't fart.
Right, exactly.
and then they live in the house with the single moms, 2-story house. I mean, just kind of classic, probably built in the late 70s, split frame kind of house, kind of older. You know, it wouldn't be the worst neighborhood you could live in, but not the best. And the movie is set in suburban Detroit. And there's another interesting thing about the movie is you don't know exactly when it is. It's kind of ambiguous as to when it is. It almost has an 80s kind of feel to the movie, but she's reading on an e-reader.
Right.
So throughout the film, a time period's not really established. And maybe it's not even important, but I just threw it out there. And they live with a single mom who's an alcoholic.
Okay.
So you know right off the bat, mom's not going to be any help.
Right.
And so her and the sister go for a walk, and they're talking about Blondie's date. Blondie's dating a dude. And so sister asks, how's it going? And oh, yeah, he's pretty cool. He's pretty nice. He doesn't talk a lot. He's kind of quiet, kind of mysterious. And while they're walking, they pass by the other major character who's the neighbor boy, we'll call him Bad Boy.
Okay.
All right, and I don't know what his name was. I think it was Greg, but I'm going to call him Bad Boy Jimmy.
Okay, is Jimmy proactive?
He's proactive. He's also kind of the badass. He drives a car and he flirts with girls. You know, right. when they see him, he's out washing his car, and they both kind of wave at him.
And sometimes he'll wave, but then he'll be like, "Oh, whatever."
Yeah, kind of too cool for school, but right. So now we go to the date. She's on a date with this guy. And we'll call him Poor Man's Dawson's Creek. Because he just seems like he would have been kind of a dirtbag character on Dawson's Creek. He's a little bit older than her. But he seems nice enough. They're outside the movie theater and they're talking. And they play a game where one of the people, so let's just say it's me and you, and we're in a crowded room. I pick a person, and the game is I pick a person in the room that I would trade places with, and you get 2 guesses as to who I chose.
Okay.
And so he picks someone, or she picks someone, and he doesn't guess it. She tells him who it is, and he picks someone, and he ends up picking a young child. And he says, "Oh man, that kid's just so innocent and has his whole life ahead of him." And she goes, "Well, you have your whole life ahead of you," and he doesn't really answer that, And so this guy,
maybe he knows something that we don't.
Yeah, and he kind of looks around a lot. Anyways, they're sitting in the theater and they're going to play the game again. She picks someone. Okay, let's just be clear here. She picks someone that she could switch out with. They're in the theater about to watch the movie, old-timey theater. And he goes, "Oh, you picked the girl in the yellow dress." And she goes, "What girl in the yellow dress?" He goes, "The girl in the yellow dress. You don't see her?" She's like, "No, I don't see her." And he goes, "We got to get out of here."
So now they're being followed.
Are they? He goes, "Can we just get out?" He just goes, "Can we get out of here?" And she's like, "What the fuck? Did you just see a girlfriend or something like that?" He's like, No, I just need to get out of there. I just wasn't feeling right. And so that's the end of their date. Cuts back to Blondie. She's hanging out with her sister. And she's like, "Yeah, he's acting weird. I don't know." And they go, "Have you slept with him yet?" Because she's obviously kind of sexually active. She's a liberated young 19, 20-year-old girl. She's in college. I saw you. Blondie.
And she doesn't fart.
She doesn't fart.
Right.
So she can be a sex interest. Yep. And there's this, whatever. Anyways, they go on another date, and this time they go out to I don't know, like a beach or something, whatever. They end up getting back in poor man Dawson Creek's car, and they have sex. And then after they have sex in the back of the car, she's just laying there. He goes to the trunk to get something. I think she assumes he's getting beer or something like that. And she's just kind of laying there, reveling in the sex she just had. And he comes back and he chloroforms her.
No.
She wakes up. She wakes up. She's in a big open. By the way, we should go ahead and say at this point, spoiler alert.
Okay.
Because,
Right.
We have millions and millions of fans, and some of them may not have seen this movie yet.
I would wager that none of them would have by now.
Well, you never know. I mean, of the millions of fans we have, at least a few have probably watched the movie.
I don't know. Maybe.
So anyway, she comes to. She's in her panties still. And he goes, "Look, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm trying to help you." And they're in a big open, kind of like a blown out building, with no walls, so you can see for miles and miles. There, you can see it for a long ways away. And he has her tied up in a chair. And he goes, "She's going to be coming soon." And he pushes her chair over because there's a chair with wheels on it, like an office chair. And you see this naked woman walking towards him.
Okay.
And he basically tells her, "Hey, look, I'm passing this along to you just like it was passed to me. And you're going to see people coming at you. You don't know who they are, but they're always going to be walking towards you. They're not fast, but they're always going to be walking towards you. It could be someone that you think you know, so it could be a loved one, or not." He said, "But I had to do it to show you that she's real." He wheels her back around, cuts her loose, puts her in the car, drives her home, and just dumps her out on the side, gets the fuck out of there. And, of course, the cops come out, and all the people are like, "Oh, that trashy family, of course the cops are coming." Bad boy Jimmy's looking out the window like, "Man, what a piece of trash family that is." But he also kind of feels bad for him.
Yeah.
So, at this point, you know, what do you think of our concept so far?
It sounds okay. I'm kind of like, so like that woman that was out there just turned around and walking at her from where they were.
Yeah,
right.
She came from a field in a distance.
Right.
So she was a good 200 yards away, just walking with a dead stare at the girl consistently towards them.
Okay, so she's, in theory, just marching in a straight line.
Yeah.
Right, okay. All right, so now she's got to put distance between them.
Well, you know, she's still kind of in disbelief.
Oh, okay, so we still have more time in the movie of, is it real or not?
Yep.
Yeah,
and she doesn't know, you know, it's real or not. She doesn't tell anybody either.
Oh, well, yeah, of course, because God forbid you get help.
Yep, and so the cops are looking into it, but they said, hey, this guy used a fake name, and he was living in a place that no one lives. He was just living in like an abandoned apartment somewhere, right?
Okay.
And so she's getting dressed in her room, and now you're kind of on edge, right? And boom, you know, ball hits a window. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ. You know, get a couple of jump scares. It turns out to be the neighbor boy spying on her again. Anyway, she goes to class the next day. Bad boy Jimmy is also in her class, this English class. And she's sitting in class looking out the window, and she sees an old woman in a hospital gown walking towards her from outside.
Okay. So here's the first round of are they after me or not?
Yeah. Okay. And she just gets up and gets out of class. The old woman comes into the buildings, walking down the hall towards her. Okay, so she's screaming at the old lady in the hall. The kids, there's a couple students in the hall. I'm like, what the fuck's this bitch talking about? And she just gets the fuck out of there.
Okay.
And she tells her sister what happened. And she tells the little crew of friends, hey, here's the deal. You know, this is fucking, someone's after me. Here's what he told me. He told me about this, and this lady was following me today. And of course, they all think she's batshit crazy.
Right.
And, you know, the good guy, what's the good guy name? You know, the childhood friend guy.
Lance.
Let's call him Lance. Let's call him Lance. Good call. So Lance says, hey, I'll protect you. Because, you know, Lance wants to bone down. He knows he can get into them drawers, you know? But he's coming from a good place because he loves her.
Yeah, but he needs a leg up. He's got to slay a couple of liches to fucking grease the wheels, you know?
Yeah.
Because what's he got really, you know?
Yeah. But he's like, I'll protect you. It's like, all right, you guys just stay over tonight. And her and the sister and Smarty Pants, you know, fart face, are sleeping in a room, and old Paul's down. No, not Paul. What's his name? I think his character's name is Paul, but old Lance is downstairs. You know, Dancing Lance is downstairs. She comes down. It's like, I can't sleep. Man, what the fuck? And basically, the window breaks. And like, oh, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? And they're like, I don't know what's going on. So she fucking freaks out, runs upstairs, and Paula checks, you know, Dancing Lance checks stuff out. And, you know, he's like, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Let me in the room, because they're up in the bedroom, boarded in at this point. She opens the door to let him in. This creepy ass fucking dude comes in. You know, a big ogre-looking guy is walking towards her. He's like, oh, Jesus Christ. She fucking dips out the window and just takes off to a park. You know, just runs. She gets on a bicycle and just drives off.
So, at this point, you've been given no clue as to why. Because I'm imagining you're at about 40 minutes.
No, you're probably about 25, 30 minutes in at this point.
Pretty close. So you still have no idea what's going on. It's just she sees something, she runs away. She sees something, she runs away. And in the meantime, nobody believes her. And then Lance and Dane are kind of in it now. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And Allie Farter is there too for some reason. But she has not proved to be valuable yet.
No.
Is it gonna... Is it going to be like a Signs thing where her farts hurt the alien?
No, it's not that. It's not that.
Okay.
It's not the farts. But
it's the Kendall.
Yeah, no. Though electronics do ultimately play into it.
You have to give them a poke.
Yeah. So when she gets out of the house and goes out on the bike, bad boy neighbor is outside dropping a girl off, getting back from a date or something. He sees her, take off. So the sister and Farty McGee and Dancing Lance, they find her. She's at a playground. And, she just tells them all what's going on. And she tells Bad Boy, he comes up. He's like, hey, is everything okay? And she's like, no, shit's not okay. And she kind of tells him what's going on. And they're like, hey, we gotta find, poor man's Dawson's Creek and get to the bottom of this thing because the cops ain't doing nothing. And so they go and they go to the house where poor man's Dawson Creek was staying. And he has stuff put up on all the windows so that they'll jingle if someone comes in. And you get a couple of jump scares as they're looking through the house, like look into a closet and like, oh, the wall fell down. So you get a couple of the cheap jump scares there. And then what they find next to an empty mattress with a bunch of tissues around it is, some Playboy mags.
All right. Awesome.
But, yeah. So he's been, hanging out in the thing. And while he's not, trying to find someone to have sex with, he's jerking it to Playboy. But they find a pic.
Noble.
Yeah, guy's got to get prepped for the big moment.
Yeah, noble pursuits. So I think he's the Jack Bauer of this universe. Like he's the one that'll get things done.
Well, no, not exactly. He's a dirtbag.
Okay, he's just a dirtbag.
Yeah, he's just a dirtbag. But they find a picture of him and a girl, and they find the high school where he went. And so they go to the high school and they find out his name. So they get his real name. And while they're in the high school, you see a girl in a school uniform that looks kind of fucked up walking towards them. But then they get in the car and take off.
Of course.
And so already you're hitting on one of the big key themes of the movie is that a bad person or is that a good person?
Well, yeah. Are they going to finally get up to him and be like, just click your heels. You could have done it all along.
Nope. You haven't predicted the ending yet.
Well, it could be. It's like.
But it's creepy, man. It's genuinely creepy because people walk everywhere, Yeah. People are always walking. And so you're always sitting there. And so they go to poor man Dawson's Creek house and they're all sitting around. And he pretty much fills him in on the whole thing. He's just like, look, I had a one-night stand, and I got it. But the deal is that if I have sex with you, and you don't pass it on, and they kill you, then it comes back to me.
Oh, well, that sucks.
Yeah, so let's just say, right. I got the, what's it, it's an STD thing, right? So let's just say,
right.
We'll call this creepy AIDS.
Okay.
Let's just say I get creepy AIDS. And then I come over to your place and me and you have, sex. And it's good sex.
Okay.
And I pass it on to you. So now you got creepy AIDS. Well, I don't have creepy AIDS anymore. It's one of the best things about creepy AIDS. You can get rid of it. Here's an easy cure. All you got to do is just, bone down.
Okay.
But you're a cynical guy. So you're just like, I don't have creepy AIDS. But you do. And, a big ogre walks in your room and rips your kneecaps off and kills you. Well, now it's coming back after me.
Right. So,
now, it never really says how he knows all this, but he knows it.
So what if you enter into a three-way?
Well, I'm glad you asked. We'll get to that later.
Oh, really? We cover this?
Kind of.
Oh, okay. So it got up on the bulletin board.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're all sitting around with poor man's Dawson's Creek, and you see a girl in a school uniform come walking up, and he just goes, "Did you see that girl?" And they're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay," because he's flipping out.
Okay.
But he pretty much just says, "Hey, look, I'm done with you. You need to get the fuck out of here. I don't even know why you're here." Because fucking if fucking Creepy AIDS kills you, I'm going to be right here. I'm going to die next.
Right.
Which, for me, that wouldn't be a bad strategy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at the very least, you would know, like, oh man, I gotta move the fuck out.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that they've devised a good strategy. They just need to hold to it. I would say you just need to keep moving. Right?
Yeah.
And because, I mean, passing it on is almost more dangerous than not. Like, at least if you have it, you know where they are and you know where they're headed. And so if you travel accordingly, they can't help but make, like, because
but you can't live your life that way.
Do they flank you? Like,
they don't flank you. I mean, they just walk straight. And no, it walks slow. And that's another one of the really creepy things about it. It walks slow, and it walks intently, and it walks consistently. It never runs. It never, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it never stops. It just one foot after
Creepy AIDS just very slowly comes at you. And that's what poor man's Dawson Creek tells him. Look, just get away from it. You'll buy yourself some time.
Yeah.
But you can't live like that forever, right?
Well, okay, let me ask you this. It knows how to navigate a hospital. What if I fly to Taiwan? Does it know how to board a plane and get through customs, or is it going to literally walk through the ocean to get to me?
Well, we never cover that ground, but eventually it would get to you. And you don't know how long it's going to take.
Okay.
I mean, I suppose you could average out how long it takes something to walk and get there, but eventually it's going to get to you. There's no escaping it.
I would toy with the hubris of it for a while before I set out to pass it on. Because ultimately, if you go into any major city, how hard can it be to pass it on? Like, you need $200 and to be directed to downtown wherever the hell you are. And
yeah, but that's the thing. What if it comes and just kills those people? It could always come back to you, and that's the creepy thing about the concept.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. So you make your if they show up, be smart.
So it's almost more like creepy herpes. It could flare up at any time.
Right. Well, yeah.
I mean, ideally,
I've been trying to crack that. By the way.
Well, and I like where you're going with the sex trade. I see where you're getting to there. We're going to get there too.
Yeah, just play a game of numbers.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thought. Just go to a brothel, and then, they're going to be consistently fucking. And so, but what about 20 years down the road? It could still always come back to you.
Well, I'd say at that point you're just kind of fucked, but,
Well, you're always going to be fucked. I mean, that's the whole thing. I guess that's why old boy was so mad, because he's like, look, just get out of here. But they listen to him. They just leave. And Bad Boy Jimmy says, hey, look, I got a place up on the lake that my family owns. Let's just go up there. They go up to the lake house, and they get a gun, so she practices how to shoot a gun.
Because that's going to help.
Yep. They practice, they get the house all prepped, and, to all the jinglies and all that kind of stuff. And they go a few hundred miles away, they're a good distance away. So they're out sitting on the beach, just sunbathing, and Farty McGee's in the water, and, Bad Boy Jimmy, I don't know where he is. He's just hanging out or something, probably smoking weed. I don't know. While they're there, you see Farty McGee start walking towards her. Not the real Farty McGee that's in the water, but, creepy herpes Farty McGee.
Okay.
And it gets to her and it grabs her hair. And so you see it grab her hair, and then it cuts away to what everyone else sees. And they just see her hair pick up, and she gets slung.
Oh.
And Dancing Lance takes a chair and breaks it. So he swings, and in midair, the chair just explodes. And the thing loses its grip on her.
Okay.
So they all just take off running, right, into this garage. Kind of a detached garage.
Okay, so now we know you may not hurt it bad, but you can hit it, and it will react.
Yes.
So you can fight.
Yes.
Okay.
So Bad Boy Jimmy's trying to get in there. He's going, hey, what are y'all doing? Just cut it out. And then, boom, something kicks a hole in the door. And this time it's Dancing Lance is the bad guy. And so they start shooting at it. Of course, it goes right. It misses, and fucking Bad Boy Jimmy's back there like, Jesus Christ, stop shooting. You're going to hit me. But they do. They shoot it in the head.
Okay.
And it gets right back up and keeps coming at them. So she takes off, gets in the car, peels out, gets into a wreck.
Oh, well, that'll help.
Breaks her arm. She's in the hospital. Now, while all this is going on, Blondie and Bad Boy Jimmy are kind of starting to fall for each other.
Okay, even though does he know about it?
Yeah, he knows. He knows what's going on.
It's still on her.
Yes, but he's skeptical of the whole thing. He's just kind of, look, I'm going to look out for you. And he has genuinely good intentions. But, he doesn't really believe that, he's Bad Boy Jimmy. He ain't got time for that. And, Dancing Lance is like, no, man, I freaking hit something against that chair and something kicked the door in. This thing happened, man. And Bad Boy Jimmy's like, man, bump all that. Come on. And so they're in the hospital, and Bad Boy Jimmy's like, look, if it'll make you feel better, I'll fuck you.
Right. I'm doing this for you.
Yeah. And she says, no, I can't. He's like, oh, come on. It won't get me. I'm Bad Boy Jimmy. I drive a car. And so Blondie and Bad Boy Jimmy fuck. She leaves the hospital. He comes and visits her.
Let me ask you this. Is there any twist where they purposefully omit her sleeping with someone else before him?
Hang on. What do you mean?
If I'm saying, is there a twist where they reveal, oh, she actually slept with someone else way before all this, and it wasn't after her, it was after this guy?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm still trying.
You're still trying to find that ending.
Yeah.
And when you get to the ending, you'll see why you haven't gotten it yet.
Okay.
Anyways, so Bad Boy Jimmy's got creepy herpes now. He comes and sees her. She's like, you see anything yet? Because she gets released from the hospital. She has a cast on her arm. It's like, you see anything yet? He's like, I ain't seen nothing. She's like, you believe me, right? Oh, yeah, I believe you, but I don't really believe you. I just think maybe it ended with me because I am the cure to creepy herpes.
Right.
Well, she's back at her house, and she's just kind of peeking over his house. She sees him walk up to the front door, and he's in like kind of pajamas, and he tries to open the front door, and the door doesn't open. So he walks to the window, picks up a brick, and launches it in. At this point, she's like, holy shit, it's creepy herpes going after him.
Okay.
So you know that creepy herpes is in the house with Bad Boy Jimmy. She runs, hauls ass across the street to try to warn him. When she gets in, you see creepy Jimmy's mom in like a bathrobe that's opened up. So you can see her, kind of naked. And she's banging on Bad Boy Jimmy's door. And she's like, don't open the door. But he opens the door. And she just lunges on him. It's not really his mom, of course. It's creepy herpes as a manifestation.
Oh, okay.
And creepy herpes jumps on him in the form of his mother, and as she is killing him, she's raping him.
Okay.
Which is kind of weird. Yeah.
Right. Always love that rape.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's dead, so it's not truly, she's having sex with him. I don't know. Rape, maybe not. I don't know.
Kind of like the demon girl in VHS.
Yeah.
It's like, so it brings you back to being 6 of like, I don't know what I'm looking at, but I know I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah. And sex is involved in the death, right? So there's probably a statement about that.
Right.
So she gets in her car, and she just drives off.
Oh, right, because it's back to her now.
It's back to her.
And creepy Jimmy's mom, Ghoul-Aids, wants her now.
Yep, and creepy herpes in the form of Jimmy is walking towards her as she leaves the house. So she gets in the car, just takes the fuck off. She drives far, far away. She's somewhere up near the lake, I'm guessing, one of the Great Lakes. And she's just laying on the hood of her car like, what the fuck? Here's where things get a little bit interesting. She hears a sound down by the water. So she goes down to the shore, and just off the shore, she sees a boat with 3 dudes on it. She takes off her clothes, so she's in her panties, and starts walking out in the water towards the dudes.
Okay.
it cuts and shows her driving back home.
Okay.
And she's obviously been, so, you know.
She enticed them.
Well, but did she?
Happened while she
but
tried.
Did she? Did she sleep with him? Did she not? So here, I'll tell you what happens next, and then we can have that discussion. So she goes back to the house. Dance and Lance. She doesn't tell any of them that what happened. And Dance and Lance is like, "Hey, I got a fucking plan. I know how to beat this thing." And so we don't know exactly what the plan is, but they have to go somewhere that they used to go when they were a kid. And so they leave the house to get in the car to go where they're going to go. It's at this point that you see a naked dude up on the roof. Hence the scene that you know.
Right.
So my first question is, do you think she slept with him?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It could be either way. It could also be that
she didn't.
Right. It could also be that one of them isn't really dead or whatever. Like, it's kind of one of those, is whatever card they decide to play.
Well, it never gets answered. It never gets answered. I'll tell you that. So you don't know if she slept with him or not. So, so far, all we know about Blondie's sex life is that she had sex with, phony Dawson's Creek guy. But, he seemed like a good dude. It wasn't anything nefarious. She had sex with, bad boy Jimmy, but he had been kind of nice to her and he agreed to pass on the disease. So that kind of absolves her of any responsibility there. Doesn't really make her a bad guy, or, it doesn't make her bad.
Right. She doesn't intentionally. Well, you don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, they go out to this old, it looks like an abandoned asylum, but there's a pool in it for some reason. And when they go inside, it says swim Detroit. So they're in this, whatever. They're in this big pool area, and they bring a bunch of shit with them, a bunch of electronics. So they bring TVs, they bring radios, dryers, not dryers, but like hair dryers and toasters, and they plug all this stuff in. And then they have her get in the pool. Okay. So obviously the intention is they're going to try to lure Creepy Herpes into the pool and then shock it to death.
Right.
Right?
Sounds pretty foolproof.
Yeah. So she's just sitting in the pool and she's like, I don't think this is going to work. They're waiting. Finally, it comes and she sees it and they're like, what's it look like? And she says, I don't want to say, because it's her dad. And dad died a long time ago.
Okay.
So dad doesn't get in the pool. Creepy Herpes, and this is where Creepy Herpes kind of breaks his MO a little bit. Creepy Herpes starts picking up the electronics and just starts hurling it at her.
Okay, because it just wants her dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it just starts.
It's learning.
So it's a pretty cool effect. So it just starts launching fucking TVs and stuff at her in the water. So every time she comes up to take a breath, she's got a new electronic flying at her fast. Okay. In the meantime, all the friends are saying, "Where's it at? Where's it at?" And so when they see a cord go, stiff when it's about to get thrown in the water, they're like, "Oh, we're gonna." So Dance and Lance takes a shot at it, misses, and hits Farty McGee in the leg.
Oops.
So shoots her in the leg, boom, she's down. But she's not out.
Okay.
And
thank God.
Eventually, the sister throws a sheet on it, and Dance and Lance shoots it in the head, and it goes down into the water.
Okay.
So now Blondie's like, I gotta get out of the water. Because they're still going to try to do some semblance of their plan. In the meantime, it grabs her by the leg and starts dragging her underwater.
Okay, for the record, the reason I'm laughing so much is that I'm still picturing all this with Depeche Mode playing.
It is. It is. I'm telling you,
I'm not going to sing it, but I'm just picturing Depeche
enjoy
Mode,
the silence. All it is here.
with Inception sounds thrown in.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the. It is a creepy soundtrack. I'll hit you with a YouTube link later. You'll appreciate this soundtrack.
All right. Anyway, so she's kicking. They're fucking throwing shit.
Yeah, and Dancing Lance ends up shooting it. Boom, in the head. The whole pool fills with blood, and they get the fuck out of Dodge.
Okay.
Is it dead? We don't know. But what we do know is that Blondie and Dancing Lance, later on that night, maybe the next day, they have sex.
Oh.
So, if Creepy Herpes is not dead, then Dancing Lance now has the disease.
Okay.
So what does Dancing Lance do? Well, Dancing Lance is thinking what you're thinking. So there's a scene, now we're getting towards the very end of the movie. Dancing Lance is driving around a very seedy part of Detroit, and there's prostitutes.
Okay.
Now, once again, and this is strange for a movie that's so direct about sex, you never know. Does Dancing Lance pick up a prostitute? Does he not? Nobody knows. But everybody gets released from the hospital, and Dancing Lance and Blondie are now a couple, and they're walking down the street. They're walking down the sidewalk holding hands, and you see someone walking behind them, kind of intently towards them. Screen goes black, into the movie.
Okay. All right. That sounds like one of the most non-committal movie endings I've ever heard of in my life.
It's extremely non-committal. I'll say this. I mean, it's certainly unsatisfying.
Yeah, I was frustrated with the top wobbling in Inception, but this is just like there is no fucking top. It's just a shot of a table, and you're like, where the fuck is Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yes. However, so I'm going to say this. Overall, I really like the movie. It's really creepy. What I really like is the walking aspect of Creepy Herpes. You know, having something that doesn't run at you.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about how horror movies are kind of like amusement rides. It doesn't really matter what they're called as long as they're fun to be on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so I really enjoyed the journey of this movie. I like the fact that, because I think while I was a little bit frustrated, like, oh man, that seems kind of abrupt, it just kind of ends, it kind of hits to the point of you never know if you escape this thing. And I'm sure that there's some larger message about sex and life, and but not even looking at, you know, at kind of a deeper analytical level. Just looking at it from a pure movie standpoint. I think the non-committal ending is the only way you could go with this one. Because what do you do if it ends? If they killed it in the pool, you know? Well, then they just killed it. That was the key, was shooting it in the head in water. Well, that doesn't make any sense because they shot it in the head earlier.
No, that doesn't make any sense. That's why you write a better ending. See, that's the thing about open, quote, endings. And there are good open endings, quote, quote, but even those I don't like because ultimately you didn't have to come up with an ending. You know, like, I agree. It would be very difficult to have that creature meet a satisfying end. So you're pretty much locked on killing her. And then, like, you could have a reveal of where it goes next. Like, you know, or something like that.
That's one option is... But that ends up being kind of corny, too, because right now you don't know. Did he pass it on? Is it even with them? It's always going to be with them. And I think that's the end point of the movie. It's always going to be with you. Even if you think you're past it, this is something, your whole life is now wrecked because of this thing. Right,
but now you're back to the meta of the STD analogy. You know?
Well, but you don't have to go to the analogy. It's still there. Once you get it, even if you pass it on, because it keeps going on to the next, till it gets to whoever, you know, patient X was.
Well, then, but you end with a shot of them walking down the street, the thing walking a block back. That's a pressing threat. So you have to imagine there that moments after the credits rolled, they had to handle this. It's not going to take it forever, right? It's finite. So even that's not really what happens. That's just where you stop seeing it. You know what I mean? And that's what kind of sucks about it, I think. Is because it's still, this is just where your time in this world is over. Like, I don't know.
Well, but I'll say this. I gave Blondie, I gave her a very cliche name, and I, didn't have the most kind things to say about her necessarily, but she's actually a pretty good actress. She plays the part very well. And so if there is going to be any kind of sequel, if you kill her, it's done. She's finished. I wouldn't mind seeing her in another movie.
Sure. And I'm sure there will be. If it's a horror movie coming out in 2015, I mean, if it makes more than $50, it's going to have another one.
Yeah, sure. But I thought it was kind of a cool concept. It's not so different from The Ring.
Yeah, but I can see how having a subtle thing, is kind of a nice change of pace. It sounds like a nice change of pace. Like, that was the same reason that you liked The Strangers, I think, a little bit more than I did, is because you just enjoyed that relief of this is not ridiculous, Yeah.
There's not really any CG in this movie. That's always a big plus for me in a horror movie, when I don't have to sit through 2 hours of CG. And, there have been pretty good horror movies that in the end get ruined by bad CG, like White Noise starring Michael Keaton. Great movie. The Conjuring, Signs, which besides this obvious plot holes, just that creepy, stupid CG alien at the end was like, oh, God, that's corny. So this movie never went that route. And it just, the coolest thing about horror movies, if they can give you a creepy vibe. And due to the soundtrack, the acting, and kind of the nature of the killer, because it's not fast, it's not going to sneak up on you, it's not a slasher, it's just a persistent, force coming at you.
Right.
And so I think it did its job very well.
No, it sounds like a nice change of pace. Kind of a subtle, low key kind of thing. Because the only horror movies I've really enjoyed in the past few years were completely satire, like Cabin in the Woods or something like that, where it was more of a fun movie than really a horror film.
Yeah. But this one's definitely a horror movie. Definitely pretty cool. Just something, kind of an interesting plot to go through. Of course, the reason I say you couldn't predict the ending, because it is a non-ending. So, if you're looking for finite ending, it's not there. So, I've ruined the movie for you,
I doubt it. I still think well, not really, because, seeing the visuals is kind of all there is. It's pulled off in a decent way. It's the same reason why I'm still glad I watched The Conjuring, because I can't wait for that dude to actually close a horror movie strong, because he does such good setups. Every single one of the Conjuring, I can't remember his name, but every single one of his movies has an excellent first 40 minutes, and then it just derails and sucks, and it's over. Yeah. Like Insidious, same thing. Great first 40 minutes.
Yeah, then just goes off the deep end, and
then you see
gets silly CG. And there was a preview for the next Insidious as well.
Insidious 5.
Yeah. I don't know which number they're on, but
3.
There's Insidious 3's coming out, but so I highly recommend the movie, and it was a cool vibe. I was glad we took this journey together.
Yeah. I'll have to check it out. But open endings, the other thing about them is they're starting to get a little overplayed. There have been a lot recently. I'm just kind of getting tired of it. It's kind of like when the twist, the fucking twist got overplayed, when you would just go into a movie in 2007 or 8, and you're like, okay,
every movie had to have
the twist in this movie.
Yep. Every movie had to have a twist in the last 5 minutes and it was usually either too simplified or too complicated to where it just didn't even make sense. It was actually that waitress that you saw for 30 seconds at the start of the movie. She's the killer.
The Tifa Lockhart complex where, like in Final Fantasy VII, it's just like, we lied to you. Huh. You know, misleading is fine. Lying is just something else, or just something like, you didn't know. Because you didn't show me. Like, when I'm watching a movie, I can't walk into a room and look around for fucking clues. You know, like, what you show me is what I've got to work with. And
right.
Yeah, it does get frustrating. Because even Birdman's ending frustrated me a little bit. That was kind of a what the fuck ending there, which, by the way, I don't think we have time right now, but we got to talk about that ending a little bit more in depth, because Lily and I were talking about it, and I can't seem to crack that in a way that makes any kind of sense.
I got to see it again. I mean, we'll have to watch that one again so I can speak more intelligently on it. I mean, that's the only reason to do this now, because I just saw this movie. So
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, non-committal endings, I would agree with you probably 8 times out of 10, but in this one I think it probably was the best way to go, even if it does leave you unsatisfied at the end. I don't know that they really could have went another way on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's better than, you know, the camera moves quick up the street and then the guy turns around, the end. Like, I guess it's better than that.
Yeah, than the classic, dog, gotcha ending, you know.
Or the bus comes by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there you have it. It Follows.